Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing how to deal with a difficult boss. This is certainly something I have experienced, and I have had questions from viewers that are inquiring. And so I wanted to make sure that I am going to cover this. So how to deal with a difficult boss. You have always considered yourself lucky for grabbing your dream job. You love your office, your coworkers, and you enjoy doing your work. But your boss, that's a story for another day. If your boss drives you mad, making your work atmosphere uncomfortable and coworkers upset, then you can be sure you are dealing with a difficult boss. The relationship with your boss plays a considerable role in your success within the company. In an ideal situation, we would all be having a good boss, someone akin to a mentor who can guide you along your career path. Most of the time, that's not the case though. But don't call it quits yet. Here we bring you a survival guide on how to deal with a difficult boss. Learning how to deal with a difficult boss can save you from a lot of stress and make your work life a whole lot better. The first step is to determine what kind of boss you're working for. So different types of difficult bosses. If your boss falls under one of these, don't get discouraged yet. Read the profiles and learn how to deal with a difficult boss and maintain a cordial relationship. And so before we move forward, I wanted to make sure that I point out that remember that your boss is not your friend, right? Your relationship with your boss is a professional relationship and it is interdependent, right? So it requires trust from both sides, okay? And so we're not looking to be best friends with our boss, but we want to maintain a professional relationship so that we are able to work together in order to advance the company's objectives and visions, okay? So the first boss we are discussing is the micromanager boss. Do you feel overwhelmed at work? Does your boss scrutinize each aspect of your work, telling you how to do it to the most minute level? They often grant very little autonomy, making you revise or rework a task till it reaches their perceived standards. These are signs of a micromanager boss. Employees with such bosses keep second guessing their work all the time before handing it over, eventually leading to workers' burnout. By not giving you the space to do the things your way, micromanagers dampen their team's morale and creativity. Micromanagers sees themselves as perfectionists. Tesla founder Elon Musk earned himself the reputation of being a nano manager for his obsessive attention to detail and utmost perfection, often doing the work himself instead of delegating it. So I have definitely dealt with a micromanager boss. It is not enjoyable because I am the type of worker that I am self-motivated, self-directed, and I just simply want to be advised of the task, and then I will present it back to you to the very minute detail of what you requested, right? So it is not enjoyable to work for these types of bosses. I have personally found that those bosses basically just have trust issues. I had not yet heard about Elon Musk being a nano manager, but it certainly makes it a hard environment to work in. So the author continues and says, earn their trust. So micromanagement is attributed to stress, lack of confidence, or anxiety. So regardless of the underlying issue, try to earn your boss's trust. Show them that you are trustworthy by staying on top of your game. Complete your task on time and inform them in case of delays. Let them know your work's progress and provide frequent updates, especially for urgent work, without them having to ask. 100% agree with this. I'm trying to think when I had the micromanager, what did I do? I did employ that. I started beating them to the punch. Right? I sped up my progress, which I guess is maybe why they're like that. No, that's not why they're like that. But I sped up my progress in order to beat them and let them know that I'm paying attention to how you're operating. And so therefore I'm meeting you at your management style and communication level, just so that we can start working on trust amongst each other, right? I want you as my boss to trust me, and I as your employee want to trust you, right? So earning their trust means that you are over communicating, you're staying transparent, and you are discussing with them any and all issues that you're running into, right? So I've talked about this before and mentioned it across other a number of videos at this point, but it says, if you tell me in advance, I am your friend, and if you tell me afterwards, then I am your critic, right? So with those types of bosses, especially, I imagine even with Mr. Musk, if he's nano managing, he definitely would prefer that if he gives an opportunity to do that. But you just want to do your part, right? To try to earn your boss's trust before you throw in the towel and say, you know what, bump this. I need a workplace that works for me, because as I mentioned, if it doesn't work out, then you need to find that perfect job for you and or start your own company. Okay. The second type of boss we're going to discuss is the absent boss. This boss is rarely at their office. You do not know if he's on an extended leave or whether he's working from home. Absentee bosses are worse than the micromanager bosses. Such bosses enjoy the privileges that come with their position, but have no connection with their team members. The exact opposite of a micromanager boss. The absentee boss is the most frustrating because they never provide feedback. They rarely communicate with their teammates and are unaware of the challenges they face in their daily tasks. Employees have no one to turn to, and this leads to a buildup of employee stress. Try to handle this situation by making it a point to connect with your boss at least once a week, and then take the lead and fill them up on what you're working on, the tasks for the next week, and mention if you face any roadblocks along the way. 100%. Even though I like working independently and I'm self-motivated and I always take the initiative, an absent boss is absolutely frustrating because you do not understand nor have any input from them on the direction that the company is going, right? So we're taking this from the perspective of an employee, right? So I'm an employee. How do I know what to do if my boss is never there? So either I'm stressing out because I'm going over his head to find out the information, or I'm just making it up as I go without any feedback of whether or not I'm doing something right or wrong. And I feel like it causes a stress in the way of kind of making you feel like you are on the chopping block, because since your boss is never there, anything that goes wrong is on you, right? And that totally defeats the purpose of them being your boss. So I definitely have experienced this. I do like how they mentioned that you want to make a point of connecting with your boss at least once a week. Since we're working from home, as far as what I coach on, I definitely would be DMing them my concerns. I know one time at a position that I held, when I was working with an absent boss, what I did was put that in the survey, right? Because I don't know who's reading the surveys, but even if it's my boss or if it's my boss's boss, at least someone knows I'm concerned about you being absent, right? So you want to communicate, you want to let them know that you are interested in communicating with them and that you need that feedback, you need that direction, and that is what they're there to do. So do not ever be afraid to ask for direction, okay? So yeah, absent bosses are not fun. Okay, so then the third boss we're going to discuss is the abusive boss, right? The short-tempered boss gets upset quickly and raises their voices in a fit of rage. They may calm down shortly afterwards and apologize. Certain bosses fall on the extreme end of the spectrum. Toxic people who enjoy verbally abusing their subordinates under this category. This abuse may even be a form of a physical threat. These are extreme abusers, and you should never stay in a job where they have to face continuous abuse. Such bosses affect employee mental health negatively. Take this issue up to the HR manager, and if still they continue their abusive behavior, look for another job. This question arises at this juncture. Are your employees... Okay, so before we get onto that, right? Right. It's okay. So I will continue. Sorry. My bad. So it says, this question arises at this juncture. Are your employees satisfied with the company culture and their team? The best way to find out would be through surveys, right? The surveys are crafted with relevant questions and are to the point. The feedback you receive from surveys, personalized employee satisfaction surveys, can help you take adequate measures to make your employees' work life happier and more fulfilling. Absolutely, 100%. I feel like I need to go back to that paragraph before where we talk about a boss that is yelling at you, raising their voices, having fits of rage. I have experienced this when I was younger, right? Especially when I was working in entertainment, and it is deemed as acceptable behavior, depending on the power and authority, as well as reputation. I'm trying to think of what the word is. It's acceptable, right? But it's not acceptable personally, right? What I want you to understand, and I will always preach, if you're not happy with the job, leave the job. Do not be bound by a paycheck. Be bound to your happiness. Be bound to your boundaries and protect yourself. You are not here to be abused. You're not here to have to stress over your job. When you are in these type of toxic environments, not only does it affect you, remember we are working from home. It's going to affect you first, as well as your house and your household, right? But then, is that dollar really worth it? And I'm not saying you're earning $1, but whatever dollar amount is not worth unhappiness. And I promise you, there is a job where they will respect you, appreciate your input, provide the feedback, provide the direction that you need. There are happy workplaces. There's articles about happy workplaces, and maybe I'll discuss this next. But there are happy workplaces, and you deserve to be happy in your job. The happier you are with working, the more productive you are, right? And one of the main reasons why we like working from home is because of the fact that we want that type of environment. Is what fits to what we desire to have, right? So we're already seeking happiness in working from home, right? So we want to stay on that path and understand, I don't want any of my listeners to ever suffer through working for an abusive boss. I feel like there should be a hotline for these types of people, right? The same way that we have hotlines for abusive partners, right? So you don't want to be in that environment. No amount of money is worth it. And I promise you, there is a company out there that will respect you, that will appreciate you, and you deserve just that, right? Because you're spending the majority of your adult life working. Right? We're not children anymore. So you're spending the majority of your life working. Let's make it a happy place. Okay. And so you definitely, if it's a company where you're able to go to the HR manager, by all means, please do that. If they do not hear you, then you can seek out your state specific, because there are state programs set up for abuse in your workplace. If HR does not respond, they are responsible. I worked in HR once before, so I know there are responsibilities that are held for them to resolve these issues. And if they do not, please seek out assistance from your state regarding this type of employment agency, right? And then go ahead and find yourself another job. I mean, I'm not saying you have to quit, but find a job that respects you. Find somewhere else to work. Okay. And so then as the boss that is this way, or as the HR department that is evaluating this boss, the surveys, make sure you are speaking up. As I mentioned, when we were talking about the absent boss, how I replied, and I didn't know this article was going to go in this manner, but how I replied to the behavior that I did not like from my boss, I did put in a survey, and I was addressed, and then I was able to meet with my boss in a way, and or when I say meet, I don't mean meet in person, because again, we're working from home, but I was able to discuss and have a meeting of the minds with my boss, and I was able to explain why I interpreted the behavior this way, and then in turn my boss was able to share with me their point of view. Okay. And so then that just builds up, some respect first and foremost, and opens up the line of communication. And then also sometimes your boss is not aware. Sometimes they're not. I'm pretty sure this article is going to cover it, but I'm just going to talk as I'm talking. But sometimes your boss is not aware of the behavior. And sometimes we don't feel comfortable telling them directly, right? The same way that a boss may not necessarily feel comfortable reflecting to us negativity, we are negative actions, right? We as the employee more often than not are not as confident to express what issues we are experiencing with our boss, right? So those anonymous surveys are everything. And you want to make sure that you are engaging in it, and you want to make sure that you're being honest, and you have to know that this is important. It's an interdependent relationship, right? The same way that you are learning from your boss on how to be the best employee, on giving you tips and guiding you through your career path as you're trying to move up and along throughout whatever part of your career journey, you're also assisting your boss in understanding things that they need to work on by being honest in those surveys. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of that and mention it in the survey. If you are not comfortable to say it directly to them and or reach out to HR directly, make sure you share your experience in that survey. All right. So the next boss we're going to discuss is the incompetent boss. So it says, new to the field or industry, such bosses find themselves in a completely new environment and have lots to learn. They make hasty and uninformed decisions that are very poorly planned due to their lack of knowledge. They rely heavily on their subordinates to get their work done. Despite their shortcomings, the incompetent bosses manages to hold their jobs. If your boss is friendly, offer them information in a casual manner without being condescending. If you are dealing with an incompetent boss, never be judgmental or try to demonstrate superiority, as this can sabotage your career in the long run. Incompetent bosses, right? I have absolutely 100% had an incompetent boss. How did I deal with that? Oh my goodness, without saying the person's name out loud, right, to remember. How I dealt with it is actually what they mentioned, that I was able to, as my boss was, sometimes you got to teach your bosses, like I love the example that they gave, that this person is incompetent, not because they're not a smart person with experience. It just might be that they're new to the industry. Right. So we are trusting our boss's judgment to bring them in. Right. So by assisting them to be better and providing the information that they need in order to lead, you are showing that you are a team player. And also you're gaining that boss's trust. And I promise you, as they are moving up, they will be absolutely 100% willing to bring you along with them. Right? Because you were kind and understanding and never judgmental. We don't do that on this channel, right? So you were kind enough, and also your boss's boss will see that. Right? They know who they have hired. And especially when you're talking about work from home, chats are reviewed, whether you believe it or not. I remember when I first started working from home, my aunt had been working from home for years, right? And I remember she said to me, she was like, be mindful of what you're saying, because I promise you everything is recorded and reviewed. And so whether your boss admits that you've been assisting them, trust me, they will see it and they will know. Okay. So you never want to take on that stance where you're judging them and or not participating and assisting them in a manner for their success. Because as you help them succeed, then they will help you can succeed. Now, they might not help you succeed directly by listing you as a reference, but as a reference point for where they gather that information, but they can help you succeed by you learning skills on how to manage up, right? You're learning skills on how to manage, right? So you might not necessarily move up and get that promotion within that company by assisting that manager or boss, but you will be able to take those skills and add them to your resume and let your new job know how you assist without being negative, but just putting out there, adding those skills, you're practicing, right, on that job, what you're going to need for the next place, so you want to keep that in mind, to never be judgmental. Always respect your boss. I mean, it's a two-way street, but please make sure you're respecting your boss and you're staying on the positive side to be understanding to their situation. If they have moved into a new field, I promise you, even though they are your boss, they are stressing. And they are scared, right? Because it's new, right? So they know that they're trusted by their boss in order to be your boss, but they too are human, right? And you just want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and you want to help them as much as you can, right? And so if it becomes really bad, then you want to mention to HR, hey, like tap them on, not tap them on the shoulder, but just shoot a message, survey, and make sure that you mention those things that you're experiencing so that you can continue to have a healthy and happy environment for work. The next boss, this looks like the final boss we will discuss, is the procrastinator. All of us procrastinate, putting off that pending report for another day, delaying the call of a problematic client until next week. But what happens when your boss is the procrastinator? He happens to get a bit disorganized, making last minute changes to a project and extending important work well into the 11th hour. They take ages to make decisions, consulting many people in the process and dragging tasks well beyond their deadline. If you have a procrastinator boss, always factor the delay in processes into an expected project timeline. Create staggered deadlines for projects instead of one final deadline. And then also submitting your work in mini sections will make it more manageable for your boss. I can say happily, I have never worked for a procrastinator boss. I have worked for the other examples that we have mentioned. I have never worked for a procrastinator boss. Oh, yes, I did. They were a dynamic duo. One was a procrastinator and the other one was abusive. But I did do that. I did. I would bring things to him, I would bring things to that boss daily, just like in some small chunks. Because if it's only like a small chunk, I was able to get an answer immediately, right? Since working from home, I have not experienced that. I have worked as peers with procrastinators, but I have not had a procrastinator boss while I've been working from home. But I do agree that the best way is to break down things in chunks. Also creating those additional deadlines, those mini deadlines, to kind of keep them on track. So that way they can catch up somewhere, maybe at 3 or 4, but you know what I mean? Like, so they're little geniuses in their way, right? Don't be judgmental, but, do your best to work within it as best as you possibly can. And again, if it's unbearable, find another job. So I preach that a lot here. Okay, so how to deal with a difficult boss in a professional way. Now that you've gotten an idea of the different types of difficult bosses you may encounter in your career, here are some tips on how to deal with a difficult boss without losing your cool. Number 1, look before you leap. It's always important to not jump to conclusions. Are you sure that your boss is difficult, especially if you're new to the company? It would be best to give it some time before coming to that conclusion. It's okay to be nervous during the first few weeks of joining, and your equation with your boss might improve in the subsequent weeks. Ascertain whether it is their fault that they are behaving like this, or is it an outcome of a stressful occurrence within the office. Carefully observe their behavior, but if their behavior remains unchanged after a month or 2, then the following strategies on how to deal with a difficult boss will be useful for you in diffusing the cold situation. So it says, adapt to your manager's working style. Figure out how your boss works and his management style. What are his priorities and what does he find critical? How does he communicate? Does your boss prefer emailing updates, or does he like direct face-to-face communication? That would be video conferencing for us. Which parameter of work does he value? Is it speed and completing a task on time, or is he focused on quality no matter how much time it takes? Is he a micromanager who wants to know the nitty-bitty details? Evaluate your working style and his and adapt it to become more aligned with his. It might be something as simple like preparing minutes after a meeting is completed, or keeping them updated more frequently. Absolutely 100% adapting to your manager's working style is definitely a great way to deal with the types of difficult bosses that we mentioned. Again, you want to come in given the benefit of the doubt, also for any and all types of boss that you have. And a lot of times it is really just a change of environment, as far as like that boss comes in with a different vision style and what is that? Oh, it's vision and style. I'm going to use those words, but they might come in with a different working style. And so you just want to be open to, you want to be adaptable. That's the thought that crossed my mind, was when you're able to manage up, there's a gift in making your boss looks great, right? And I believe it's like sowing good karma, right? For promotions, as well as sowing good karma for if you ever did decide to run your own company. What goes around comes around, right? So the more that you make your boss look good, the better you look. Okay. And so that's why adapting to their working style is a gift to be able to do that. And so I would say you should definitely value that type of skill. Okay, and so next we're going to talk about the second professional way to deal with a difficult boss is set clear boundaries. Learn to say no to your boss politely. If the request of working overtime or pushing workload have been unmanageable for you to handle single-handedly, let them know. By setting boundaries, he will be reminded of the importance of the employee's well-being. It's difficult to say no to your boss, but strive to do so by identifying your boundaries. Learning how to deal with a difficult boss can be quite tricky, but ensure that you stick by these boundaries at all times. The right boss will help you to attain a healthy work-life balance and give you adequate freedom. Okay, so definitely setting boundaries is very important. I've had bosses where they expected a lot, right? And so you just have to be clear. You have to be consistent even with being clear, right? So that they can learn that this is a boundary. Like, really, I will not allow you to violate it. And once you reach that level of the relationship, or even if you start out on that level of the relationship, you have to keep that in mind. You have to be consistent, and that might mean sometimes you really, really, really want to violate that boundary, but please don't. If you have these types of bosses that don't respect your boundaries, they will take advantage of that, right? And so and they'll just, once they get started, once they crack you, then they're going to keep going. So you want to make sure that you are consistent with those boundaries that you set as well. The third thing they say is prove your mettle to your boss. And it says understand your boss's expectations and what matters to him the most. Try to make your boss's life easier by understanding the professional goals he is trying to accomplish and contribute towards achieving them by working as a team player. Volunteer to take up new projects and ensure that you give it your all. If you work diligently and make an effort to do your job well, it will be noted. Perhaps it might even lead to employee recognition. Show initiative by seeking solutions to problems by yourself instead of complaining. Offer suggestions and become a self-starter. Focus on your priorities. Exhibit your key skills and prove to your boss that you are a reliable person. This is one of the best ways on how to deal with a difficult boss. Absolutely 100% hold this true. At this point, we've talked about this multiple times across across my channel, where your relationship with your boss is an interdependent relationship. You guys are working together. Yes, in this relationship, they have more authority than you. They have a different title above you, but you are still working together. And so, as I mentioned, the better you make your boss look, the better you look, right? And so whether that recognition comes directly from your boss, or if it comes from your boss's boss, or your peers echoing what you are doing for your boss, just, keep doing a great job, right? Know and understand that you're sowing good karma. Today, I want to talk about karma, I guess, but know that you're sowing good karma. Know that you're doing the right thing. As long as you are doing things now, here's the thing. It just crossed my mind. You don't want to be doing your boss's job though, right? So you want to make sure the things that your boss is asking of you is your job. And if it's not, then we want to make sure we mention this in the survey so that HR and or your boss's boss can review this information and follow up with them, right? Because you've already set boundaries. You have taken the time to understand exactly what it is that you're required to do. And so you are constantly checking in with them and asking them for feedback to let you know how you're doing and what it is they are expecting. You're communicating with them on their level and according to their style. And so if you find that you're going, it's just too much, and now your boss is putting everything on you, then you definitely want to fill out that survey and or find another job, right? So proving yourself and showing initiative does not mean taking on your boss's job. Okay, it means assisting, right? This is a team effort. You're showing that you're a team player, not that you are doing the work for your boss, right? So we're not receiving that paycheck, correct? So we want to make sure that we are simply being a great team player, a great assistant to your boss, okay? Number 4, be patient. What a stressed worker often neglects is the power of patience. Patience is an underrated trait. It has its rewards, especially at the workplace. When you hear your boss yelling at you and belittling you in front of the team, resist the urge to yell back. Don't fight fire with fire. You can't control their actions, but you can always control your reaction. Right? So the best response is to remain calm. By doing so, you have the upper hand. This is your cheat sheet on how to deal with a difficult boss without becoming frustrated. Patience and calmness will help you pave the way forward in grueling meetings, and your boss will respect you all the more for your level-headed nature. 100% true, right? The reason why we don't need to fight fire with fire, because there is another job out there that is perfect for you. Right? So we also don't take things personal. We are detached from the job and the outcome of the job, so you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself and holding up well with your boundaries. You want to keep a level head. I mean, we're professionals, we're adults at this point, and none of us want to go to jail, right? So or get fired, right? So I'm like, work from home is get fired, right? So I often joke and say I'm too old to go to jail at this point in my life. But so you want to keep in mind you're working from home and you want your job to be a peaceful place. And so just staying level-headed, staying positive, being patient for their response. I'm thinking in a work from home environment, being patient even as far as a response to that survey, right, that you may have filled out. Don't fill out the survey and think that because no one has reached out to you that you are being ignored, or that and then you start slacking off and responding negatively. Continue to do a great job, and I promise you the answer will come to you, right? So just stay level-headed, always be on your P's and Q's doing what you need to do, and that situation will work out. Number 5, always be on your toes. If you feel that your boss hates you and has you on his radar, you must be careful and cautious. Prepare yourselves for your workday beforehand and finish your work before the deadline comes around the corner. This tip on how to deal with a difficult boss can come in handy, especially if you have a boss who is a micromanager. I will add, or an absent boss. My experience with an absent boss was because the boss was trying to get me fired. Stay on your P's and Q's. Okay? I just mentioned that for the last one, but that's how you counter that. Okay? So foresee the tasks that your boss might ask and complete them before he or she inquires about them. By being efficient at your work and staying one step ahead, you can eliminate stress in an organization. Inculcate the practice of planning each day and always be on your toes. Your boss will eventually learn to trust you, and over time, your excellent work ethics may even fetch you employee awards. 100% absolutely true. We'll not go into details, but it's true. I definitely agree. Like I talked about before, I'm a merit-based worker, right? I do understand that all company cultures do not value that, right? I am not here to be a friend with my boss, but I am also not expecting my boss to be my friend. So I have found that I have found that by doing an excellent job, following the chain of command has been rewarding for me, right? I'm the girl that just wrote the great promotion when I talked about how I got 4 promotions in 6 months and a bonus from my work from home job, right? And this is definitely a skill that, or a tip that I 100% drill down on. Do your job. Do your job. Always do your job. Don't do other people's jobs. Okay? Do your job. The job that you are hired for is the cog in the wheel that keeps the thing going. Don't let that wheel stop on your cog. Okay? So as long as you're doing that, you are protected by your boss's boss, because you are constantly 100% focused on the company's directives and goals, right? Take that time when you get that job to learn the company's organization, the company's culture. Learn everything you can about your job so you can make sure you're doing the right thing, right? You can make sure that you are the cog that's always working in that wheel, okay? And that provides protection for you, right? Because then as you are shouting out your accomplishments, it's always aligned with your job. And you doing your job shows that you're a great team player. So this particular tip I love. This is a part of my merit-based work living, right? So always make sure you're doing what you're doing. I know they mentioned that this assists with micromanagers, but again, it also assists with the absent boss. Not necessarily the abusive boss. The abusive boss has some stuff going on that Kendra don't play with, okay? So toxic environments are a no for work. No money is worth it, okay? And I have made a lot of money from jobs. No money is worth it for toxic environments, okay? That if I can't get a break and enjoy the money that you're giving me, what was it for? Okay? So if I can only use my time when I get off work to go to sleep because it's so toxic, that ain't the right job, honey. All right. So then number 6, we want to document your interactions with your boss. Again, I definitely agree with that. It says whether it is a good interaction, such as when your boss appreciates you for the work well done, or a bad interaction like a rude conversation, it will always be useful to document everything, especially if you have a difficult boss. These written proofs will be your shield against possible attacks from a toxic boss who could accuse you of wrongs you haven't committed. Oh, this is tapping into my trust issues, right? Documenting interactions will help you clear your side of the story in case of any situation, in case of an awry situation, right? Or if your position with the company is in jeopardy. This is one of the wisest tips you can take on how to deal with a difficult boss. Definitely. I'm laughing because I would joke with two of my peers. I would joke, we were on a team together, and I would say, Kendra is the queen of receipts, okay? So don't mess with me. Even if it's something good, I promise you, Kendra has a screenshot somewhere, just in case it turns into, in case it gets misinterpreted, I have it, baby. So I don't say you have to be as crazy as I am. I mean, I've had some crazy bosses, right? I told you I worked in entertainment before, so I've had some crazy bosses, which has made me this way. But I do definitely approve of this mention, and glad I'm not the only one that would suggest this, that you definitely want to document your interactions with your boss. I mean, if you have a good meeting, you can document it by following up with a thank you. That was a great meeting. I took your advice. I enjoyed our meeting. I enjoyed our time today, especially when you said XYZ. Now, when it's bad, you want to screenshot and kind of step back, right? And wait for the shots to be fired, okay? So there's ways of documenting even the good meetings, right? They're not all bad. But I mean, because your boss can just have a bad day, right? It doesn't mean they're a bad boss, but they could just be having a bad day and just off, again, we're working from home. And so things can be going on in our households, and they, give the benefit of the doubt, right? That's the shortest way to say it. Always give the benefit of the doubt, but document your interactions, okay? That's just Kendra's way to go. All right. So, number 7, you want to have an open talk with your difficult boss. Communication is key. So according to career experts, yet another way on how to deal with a difficult boss is to have an open talk with them, right? You may feel he has a personal bias against you, that he fails to support you during times of crisis at work, or even the absence of employee appreciation within the team. Whatever the issue is that is troubling you, a conversation with your boss can help you get it out in the open. State your concerns politely and attempt to clear out any misunderstandings. Make your expectations loud and clear in a respectful way. No matter what, avoid blaming your boss outright. Be objective, okay, and professional. And then face-to-face meetings would work best, and communications such as these would help resolve conflicts, paving the way for a healthier working environment. Unfortunately, if nothing changes after this and your boss remains difficult, consult with HR and try requesting a transfer to another department within the company. Yes. Yes. Communication is key. I mean, we're working from home, and you have already learned from me that we are over communicating, right? And so when you're dealing with a difficult boss, I love how they pointed out, it's best to definitely be open, be respectful when you're communicating. Do not ever point blame. Doesn't work in any environment. I mean, think if someone pointed the finger at you, how would you feel, right? So you want to be objective and professional, understanding that everything is in writing, everything is recorded, everything is there for your boss's boss to review, right? So you want to make sure that you're always presenting yourself as a team player and as someone that is giving the benefit of the doubt, right? So maybe not a face-to-face meeting because of the fact that we're working from home, but definitely just asking, instead of direct messaging your boss or emailing your boss saying, can I have feedback? If I really have something I don't know if you say I want to have something to talk about. Say, is it possible this week for us to have 15 minutes to converse, right? Instead of maybe the written feedback that you've been attempting to get from them, right? So it's just the way that you say it. And then when you go in, like I said, you want to be respectful. I like to harp on, I know we are all very busy, right? And I know that we are all working from home and there are challenges that are occurring. And I know that we are all human, right? So you just want to be open and understanding, and tread lightly on how you say it. And like they said, if after that nothing changes, then you definitely want to consult HR and complete that survey. Survey is your best friend, okay? And then be patient and allow HR to do their thing. Be patient and allow the surveys to be reviewed. Stay level-headed and just continue to do a great job and keep those receipts of you doing a great job, okay? So number 8, the last resort. People don't quit a job, they quit a boss, or so the saying goes. You have tried out all the ways on how to deal with a difficult boss. If you feel that there is no progress in your equation with your boss and that it has deteriorated from bad to worse, the next option would be to seek a better job opportunity elsewhere. There is no need to stay in a workplace where you are not valued. Research suggests that when work life becomes unbearable, the stress will begin to permeate into other aspects of your daily life, leading to many chronic health issues. Move out and look for better opportunities that could grant you some peace of mind when interviewing with a new company, and before accepting an offer. Word to the wise, always research how your next boss would be. You wouldn't want to jump from a frying pan into the fire. Learn about the company culture, the people, and your potential boss from any acquaintances within the company. Try not to sound like a stalker though. So yes, The last resort is to go ahead and look for somewhere else to go. You want to make sure that you've exhausted all possible scenarios in order, to ensure your success, right? If you haven't, I promise you, it's going to follow you to another job. You're going to have to deal with it, right? So managing up is a challenge. Dealing with a difficult boss is a challenge. But like, I love how they mention that when you start interviewing with a new company, you want to research how your next boss, how the new boss would manages as well, right? Because at this point, you've learned from the old boss what you are not interested in dealing with. You've established those boundaries, right? You're clear on it because you just got through going through it. And so maybe what I'll do is create a video on what questions to ask to learn their management style during an interview. How to quiz your boss, right? Because I've talked about this before. In the interview, you are being interviewed, but also that is your opportunity to interview them and the company and the coach. So your boss, the company, and the company's culture. During that interview, that is your opportunity to do that. That is the time when you want to do that. Yes, reviews are great online, but the same way companies can buy, the same way the restaurants can buy reviews, so do companies, unfortunately. And so you want to ask the right questions when you are being interviewed. I do like how they said you want to learn about the company culture, the people, and your potential boss from acquaintances within the company. That helps if you're applying for a company where you know someone, right? We can reach out on LinkedIn. You can see people that work for that company. I mean, you might run across a person that would be willing to share, right? But you take that with a grain of salt, and you're better equipped when you learn what questions to ask during an interview to understand what type of person you'll be working for. So I will work on that next, right? But wrapping it up, every one of us will have to deal with a difficult boss at least once in our careers. Learning how to deal with a difficult boss while remaining professional is the only way to go. While your first instinct might be to resign, adopting these time-tested strategies on how to deal with difficult bosses is the best option for you. There are different kinds of difficult bosses. Each of them has its strengths and weaknesses. Understanding the root cause of their behavior and seeing things from their perspective may help you deal with challenging situations. If all of the above tips if all of the above tips on how to deal with a difficult boss fail, it would be advisable to seek other job opportunities, which would be better for you in the long run. Absolutely 100%. You want to give the benefit of the doubt. You want to evaluate. You want to be patient for the change. You want to communicate. You want to, fill out that survey. You want to reach out to HR. You want to, practice all these steps that we just discussed before resigning, right? Because yes, there are other jobs available, but we don't like looking for jobs, right? Interviewing is not fun, right? So you want to first try to work out the relationship, understand that it is interdependent, understanding that you and your boss are a team, and so you want to make sure you're presenting yourself as that strong team player. You want to make sure you're documenting everything. And then if it doesn't work, if you tried everything, if it's just unbearable, if the person is abusive, even if they're abusive, work on your exit strategy before exiting, right? So, just take your time and be patient, right? And follow these steps. And then if all else fails, you already know my motto: find another job. There is a perfect job for you. And if there's not, then you are definitely welcome to start your own company. So this one was a pretty long one, but I thank you all for your interest and your time. Thank you for staying with me this long to the end to discuss how to deal with difficult bosses. I really enjoyed this article, and I hope you enjoy this content that I'm sharing today, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Hello, my name is Kendra, the official business renovator. Thank you for joining my channel today, and I hope that you enjoy the content today. Feel free to like, comment, and share the video, as well as subscribe so that you can get notifications for when I release new content. Also, click the link in the bio for more products from me, as I recently released the book, The Great Promotion, and I discuss how I got promoted 4 times in 6 months and received a bonus while working from home.